Okay, so today I know those, I told y'all to work on those problems that are part of MindTap. So I know a lot of people had trouble with it, so we'll start on them. We may not do all of them in class like we have up to now, because I want you all to have some time on Wednesday. We're going to go over loops some more with using the turtles situation. So I've got an assignment for doing that. So today we're going to get as many as we can done, and then the rest of them you'll do independently. And if you have trouble, you let me know. But now there were a few questions I think students had on this payroll or quiz sheet, because I didn't get it working, but I did get it working, and I put it there. Let me show you this one, because we did it in this class together, and so here was the output. Yes, Sam?
Yeah, I was going to say that I emailed you about that to say that, like, it said that it was due at like 9:15 or something like that.
It shouldn't have closed, because that was in Canvas. Did it let you put it in there? Because in Canvas I haven't.
Go back. I tried to fix it and everything, and it said that it was past due.
Well, it should have said past due, but it should have still let you put it there. Did it? Let's see. Let me see if it did. But I haven't graded those yet. Let's see. That will be this class and not test. I want. It was called homework, I think. So that one was called payroll right here. Okay. You're Samuel Nixon, right? Yeah, there's yours right there. So I got it. Okay. So yeah, and you can, even if that's past due and you haven't dropped that in there, we did that in class. So you should have that one. Oh, get this up. So
oh no, I don't know what it was. I couldn't access the payroll, the actual one that you posted up. That's what I was going to say. Like, it was unable, because it was past due, to actually access the file to see like the correct.
okay, right. You're talking about
the one that I uploaded.
This right here.
The one that we did in class.
Oh.
Whenever I uploaded it to the thing, that's what I uploaded was the original one in class.
Oh. Okay, so the one, if you downloaded this.
Yeah, I was like, it wouldn't. I don't think it let me download it first.
Did everybody see that? That's where you should have gotten the one that was corrected, because in class, that's been a week ago now, 2 weeks, I guess. No, it was, I don't remember, but okay, let's go where it's at and I'll look at it. Let me see. No, it must be Unit 5. I just called it Unit 5. So where is that at? Let's see. I call that Unit 5-1. There it is. Okay, so let's see what's in here. So the quiz sheet, I actually put in there several of them that we did in chapter 5. So this payroll one I did in the Wednesday class on the 12:30 class, and that's why I put payroll or quiz sheet, was because for them that was the one I did. So let's look at this one. Who got quiz sheet to run right? Anybody get it to run right? Okay. So you found it on your own, or did you download this one? You got this one to download, okay? Okay, so if we do it in PyCharm, I did get my idle working on here too now. Okay, so this one, oh, I thought I had quiz sheet in here. Where did it go? It's the payroll one. I may have to do it in, let me do it in idle then. Okay, so here was one that we did in class using functions, because you remember next time on the test, you're going to have to do functions. But here we had the housekeeping, we had the detail loop. I can't remember what I had wrong on here, but if you run it now, and I put chapter 1 quiz, and there it printed it just like the example in the book. So it has the nested loops, and I can keep going because this is, remember how we talked about every program now will have this outer loop that just determines how many times you want to run the program. And this is called a sentinel control loop because it's controlled by a specific input by the user. What's the other kind of loop we can have? This is called an indefinite loop. What's the other one? It's a definite, right? Because you know how many times you're going to go through. So there's definite and indefinite, and usually a counter control loop is the definite because you say, you know, I want to do this 10 times or something. So here to quit, I would have to do ZZZ, and then it quits. End of quiz sheets. So I'm not sure, Samuel, why you had trouble downloading that file.
I may have been looking at it the wrong way.
Yeah, and I gave you all those extras to be able to look at the code, and you can, this is going to be, this one that you see here, this quiz sheet. Let me go back up and see if I can open it again. This one is going to be more like, you won't have one any more complicated than this, because this has a nested loop inside this nested loop, which is inside the main loop, right? So detail loop, here's where the actual main program starts, and that's where the main loop that stops and starts the program, right? So if we look in, let me go back into MindTap too, and let's look at the flow chart and the pseudocode for this and see how it matches that, because I tried to make the Python match what the pseudocode and flowchart is. And that's what you basically want to start with. And there were still people on the test that had trouble just writing pseudocode without all the syntax in there, because you don't need, when you're writing pseudocode, let me look. Let me go into MindTap and show you. Because we're going into MindTap anyway to do some of these problems. Okay, I guess I have this pretty big for some reason. Like I was telling you, this is the make or break chapter in logic usually. People, but I even had some people on the if then else on the test. A lot of people had trouble with the one. They could make it work, except for they couldn't make when both GPAs were 4.0. I had a lot of them that just did the President's Honor Roll and didn't get those two statements. So be sure you understand how to group ifs together so that you get the right conclusion or results. Okay, so in here, I go back to that quiz sheet one. I think payroll was the next one or something. Oh, okay, we have one too that has validate data, one of our one of your problems in there, and we have a loop accumulation of totals. Is this the one with the quiz sheets? I can't remember. Let's see. Oh, this would probably be easier. I think it was the first one with nested loops, maybe. Yeah. Okay, so on the quiz sheets, what the this was our flow chart. So our main body of our loop in Python was this part, right? It was this part where it controlled how many times you went through. And you'll notice in this part, there's a function here, and a function here. So that's what we did in our Python. We have our main loop, which is the first part that you should always code before you code your detail, but some people prefer to do it that way, so you can if you want. But here is the main loop of the program. That's where our program starts. We actually didn't do much declarations like they did in the flowchart because we didn't want to have to pass variables back and forth to our functions. Okay, so here was the quiz. We set up quit as ZZZ. Then this was where we made a call to housekeeping. And that's what initialized name, because up here in housekeeping, we ask enter a quiz name or ZZZ to quit and print in and then return in. So it prints it to the report and then it returns it as the initialized variable. That's the control variable for our whole loop here. That's the one that determines whether we're at quit or not, right? It's the name of the quiz. So that's called our loop control variable for the outer loop. And this is one of the outer loops. We actually have two because of the detail loop. So then we go here and we say while name is not equal to quit. So that's the diamond shape on our flow chart, right? All right. So then it makes a call to detail loop. And remember, within the detail loop, we have to always alter the control variable. So up here, we use our declarations, and then we initialize this before we go into our while loop. And we know this is what kind of a loop, definite or indefinite, this while loop. Definite or indefinite? Definite, because it says we're going to go through 5 times. We know we want to print out 5 parts. So we say we initialize part counter to 1 instead of 0 because we want to print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So we do 1, and then we say as long as part counter is less than or equal to parts, then print part label, which is the word part, and then print part counter. Then we start our inner loop. So we're going to initialize when right after we print out part 1, then we need to initialize our inner loop with question counter. And is it definite or indefinite? Definite, because we're going to do 3 questions, right? 3 lines for questions. So as long as it question counter is less than or equal to questions, print question counter and then line, which is that line right there. And then we have to alter the control variable. And this is altering the one on the outer loop. So this is an outer loop and an inner loop inside detail loop. So I put these comments all the way along so that it would help you to when you go back and look at it. And that's how you need to build all loops like that have have something going on. Okay, so we're going to go over in the chapter contents. You'll notice that besides the avoiding the mistakes, which we talked about these all along the way, but this is a good thing to remember that this is in this chapter. If you're having a error with your loop, oh my. Oh, I probably got to do one more time. And the one that we didn't cover yet, did we cover for loop in the class? I don't remember if we did or not. We didn't, did we? So for loop is the one that's most commonly used for a definite loop, because you can do it easy within one statement, but you can do the same thing with the while loop if you have trouble with the way the for statement looks. So it has the same three things: initialize, test, and alter, that a while loop has, right? Every loop has to have that. So with a for loop, in this one line of code, you're doing all three of those things. So you don't have to have an initialize step before. You say, for whatever the loop control variable is, as long as it's equal to the initial value, like for instance, if it starts out at 1, to the final value, then increment it or alter it. And then all the body of the loop is right here, and we don't actually have an end in Python, but we'll see some examples of that. So a for loop can express the same logic as a while statement, but in a more compact form. You never are required to use a for statement for any loop. A while loop can always be used instead. So down here is the example of the difference, because when we did the hello program in Python, you remember we did it this way with the while loop. Let me go to where that is. Oh, where did that go? I thought I still had that open. Let me go here and let's look at that one. Maybe I have it somewhere. Nope. Okay, so unit 5. I want to show you, we're going to change it from a while loop to a for loop, and I'll show you what the difference is. Okay, let's see. Go. I'm not finding it. 5-1, there it is. Okay. Oh, there's where it is in PyCharm projects. Okay, this one I'll go ahead and open with PyCharm. No, maybe not. Already open. Well, I thought I would open it that way, and it's not wanting to for some reason. Okay, where's PyCharm? I'll go ahead and do PyCharm because that's what we've been doing anyway. Okay, so where did my hello go? I thought I saw it in here. Now I don't even see it. Well, let me close this one. Sorry about that. Let's see here. There we go. That should be it. Okay, so this is where we did it with the definite while loop. And now if we want to change this, just like the pseudocode shows, to a for loop, then over here, I'll copy this, see if it'll let me. No. Okay, so let me leave this open. Okay, so if we want to change our this one into a while loop, I'm sorry, a for loop, say a new file, and we want it to do the same thing as this while loop here does, then I would say for count, and what does it start out? Yeah, equals 0. And in Python, it's a little different. Has anybody written a Python for loop yet? You can't get yours to work? Okay, so let's go, let's look it up here so we make sure. So I don't do it wrong. Oh, I have one in here. Let me find it. Come on. So has anybody made a for loop work yet? Right? No?
I get the index on the word. We use index, but I can't get in between two numbers.
First loop,
1
first.
to 10.
Okay, let's see. Let me see if I can find the one that I.
Who's the improper?
Oh, you were doing it wrong?
I've heard do like range, and it'd be like kind of put a value in.
And it still didn't let you do it, huh? Nested. I don't know why. There's array for loops. Let me see. This one will have my for loop. I know where I have a for loop. Probably in this one I do. Let me see. While. No. There it is. Okay, so here's one that has it. I'll show you one that has it. Okay. Oh, why is it not letting, for some reason, it's not letting me open more than one program in idle at a time. So if I wanted to do a range, then that's what you couldn't get to work, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if we do a range, I just had it open and now I don't know where it went. It was this one had a for loop, didn't it? Yeah. Okay, let me see if this one will open with idle. Let's see if it will. That is crazy. Something that's wrong with where it won't let me reopen one for some reason. I have to close the one that I'm in. No, close it. Okay, so let's see. Open with. Yeah, that is really weird. It's making me close one out. Okay, this is, here's if you were doing for, that's in a range. There's another way to do it too that's a little easier. For X in range 10, print X. I don't want to do ranges first. Let's go over to where, to W3 schools, and then it shows you different ways to do it. So I get it confused with JavaScript is so different. And that's what I code in the most. Here we go. Okay, so let me go here for loops. Tuples, for loops right here. So right in here, for X in fruits, print X. So this is if you have an established, that's different if you have like an array, and we're not working with arrays yet. For X in banana, right. I thought this would show us without doing.
That's what he shows us in that video.
In the video? Okay, here's the range for X in range 6. Note that range 6 is not the values of 0 to 6, but the values 0 to 5. So here it'll print for X in range 2 to 6. So here's the syntax for it. So if you run these examples, here's one. Let's see, this one. For X in range 6, print X, so it printed 0 through 5. So if we do that with our hello, and I didn't leave it open, did I? Let's see. That's the loop 1. They've changed idle. That's what the problem is. File, open. Okay, so where did I find my hello? There it is. Okay, so this was the one that was hello, and we did like a detail loop. So if I want to take this one and do it in a for loop, the same thing, then in Python, I would say for X in range 6. So if I want to print it 4 times, if I want to print hello 4 times, then instead of saying X, so I would say 4, well, I could still say 4X range 4. It's going to start at 0. And then I would say print. Oops, I got to do that in quotes. And now if I run it, source must be saved. Okay, this will be hello. Oops. Is it what I wanted? Hello for loop. Okay. Invalid syntax. Okay, which one is it saying is invalid? Oh, my range. It doesn't like how I said it. Oh, I had to say in. X in. There you go. So there's the same thing, how short it is. See, there it is in the for loop, and there it is in a while loop. You have to have an initialize. So what's the initialize up here in the for loop? It's in for X. It's already automatically, unless you tell it to be, like if I wanted it to be start out at 1, then I could put it 1 over here and say 1, 4. Let's see what this does. So now if I run it, it should only print 3 times. See? Because it initializes, like it defaults in a for loop in Python, it defaults this value to 0 if you don't tell it what to be. So inside these parentheses in the range is telling it how many times to do what's in the body of the loop. So if I wanted it to print a username, then above there I could say name equals, oops, name equals input, please enter your name. And then when it prints out, I could say hello plus, oops, that isn't right. Plus string. Actually, I shouldn't have to put string because it is a string, but I will do that anyway. Okay, so now anything that I do outside of that, this time it's only going to print 3 times. Please enter your name. And there it is. So the way you control the loop, that's what I want you to remember here is to look at, is this still has the initialize, but it may be defaulted in a for loop and you don't even have to set it. And then it has the test is right here when it does in range, and then it's stepping forward until it gets to there. It's just stepping forward 1. So it's increasing or incrementing. So a for loop doesn't work for the, like in the quiz sheet when we were wanting to know how many times or to keep doing it until ZZZ. You couldn't really use a for loop. It'd be a lot harder. It's no need to do that. Okay, anybody have any questions about a for loop then? Get it? These two, always go back into the chapter. It's figure 5-15, and that's the pseudocode. You see the difference in the pseudocode and the Python, and that's what I want you to remember like they did put output hello and put quotes there just to show it. They didn't put all the parentheses and all the stuff that you have to do to make the Python actually work. So pseudocode should be real quick to write out, whereas Python, you've got to worry with all the syntax. So this is a for loop that's done in Java and C++. This is how you would do a for loop. And it does have an end for, that's what this curly brace is. The three actions, initializing, evaluating, and altering the loop control variable, are separated by semicolons within a set of parentheses that follow the keyword for. The expression count plus plus increases count by 1. In each of the three languages, the block of statements that depends on the loop sits between a pair of curly braces. See, Python doesn't do that. Python doesn't make you do that. All right, so both while loop and for loop are called pre-test loops, and we actually, there's a do until, that's called a post-test loop, and that's in some languages allow you to do that. That's where you test the loop at the bottom. So here we test the loop at the top. A do while is going to test it at the bottom. Do pay a bill. See, the body of the loop is at the top, and then they test to see if they want to do it again. So they actually do the loop one time regardless of what the initialize is. Okay, so that's called a do what? Oh, man. So that's what this part is about, is the post-test loop. Now, the other two things that we have problems in, but we'll get to, if we don't get to the one on accumulating totals, you have a problem on accumulating totals. Where was that at? Oh, I thought it was 5.8. Okay, let's see. And you have using a loop to accumulate totals. We have one in MindTap that we're going to do that is like this. And so it's kind of like a subtotal, like the averages that I've had you do, like on your test, I only had you do 2, but it still was like you had to subtotal it, accumulate the number of GPAs and then divide. Well, that's what an accumulator total does. It just sits there and accumulates within the loop right here. And then there's another one that we're going to do too, like that's in here. What's the next one? Validate. So this is where you want to make sure that the user has entered a valid amount, or if it's supposed to be numeric, if it's supposed to be alphanumeric, that they've entered a correct value, and that's what you use if statements for. So see, we're still using a combination of everything we've used since the very first chapter. All right, so some of y'all must be already working on the MindTap. So what y'all doing? So the MindTap's going to start. Who's already done the first one in MindTap? Have you done that?
I tried, but it's not working for me.
It's not working? Okay, well, let's see. So this is the counter controlled. So is this definite or indefinite? Definite, because it's going to be controlled by a specific number of times that we're going to go through the loop. Start the assignment. This is okay, this one is called, what's the name of this one? Multiply. Okay. Come on, Ida, what is wrong? Still not letting me do it until I close all these out. Okay. So this program prints the numbers 0 through 10 along with these values multiplied by 2 and by 10. So there's no input required, and they're printing out column headings. So the number of times to loop, so our constant to control the loop is 10. So here's what we want to print. Here's our initialize the loop control variable. We set it to 0. Here's our test of the loop. And it's going to do the test 11 times because on the 11th time it's going to drop out. So the only thing that's in the body of the loop is that you multiply by 10, multiply by 2, print out those headings, and increment the counter. So in yours, so it's got this part done, this part done. So initialize the loop control variable. So what do we put here?
Number counter. Wait, no, you're at E. While number counter.
Oh wait, the while's below. First we're going to initialize. You were right. First, yeah, number counter. And is it like this, I think? Number counter. Is that right? Did I do it right? It should have given you the variable names.
Equals 0.
Okay.
Equals
0. So that's our initialize. And now here's where the while loop starts, right?
Yeah. That's while number counter greater than, I think.
Is greater than, okay,
No, other way around. Less than, sorry.
less than,
Equals.
less than or equal to 10, or
No, it's number loops.
number loops. Okay, so that is spelled num loops. Okay.
You have to put equal to.
Okay. Number less than or equal to number loops multiplied by 10. And so we have to use the 2 that they use. So we have to say,
By 10.
yeah, I'll do it.
Equals number counter plus 10.
By, yeah, by 10.
Oh, is it time 10?
Yeah, it's multiplied. Equals number counter times 10. Okay, and then the 2 one would be by 2 equals number counter times 2. And then it's going to print them out, and then we have to do the alter counters. So this would be number counter, and we can do plus equals 1, right?
Actually, just plus 1. Because I just did that, I got 100. It's not equals 1.
Well, you got to add 1 to counter.
Wait, are you doing?
I'm doing the shortcut for the, it's a shortcut, so you can do plus equals 1 to add it to the number. As what you were saying. You were saying number counter equals number counter plus 1. Yeah. So
I
we,
did a long way.
yeah,
Overall.
that's okay. Okay, so 1. All right, so let's see what happens. What does it tell you what ones to do it with? Oh, we don't need an input. Okay. Okay, I have an error somewhere. File line 20 in module. While number counter is less, oh, number loops I didn't make all caps. Okay. Okay, it worked. Now, what y'all saying is probably your checks didn't work or something. Let's see.
I checked while I work because I figured out what I did.
test case output incomplete. Oh. What? Attempt this task to view. Oh, there it is. Okay, everybody got it now? All right, so let's go to the next one. So this one's with the sentinel loop. So those are the two kinds of loops that a while loop can be, but a for loop we could have done that counter controlled loop in a for loop or the while loop, which it had you do the while loop. If we have time, we'll go back and do that in a for loop. Okay, so this one's called Movie Guide. This program allows each theater patron to enter a value from 0 to 4, indicating the number of stars that the patron awards to the guide's featured movie of the week. The program executes continuously until the theater manager enters a negative number to quit. At the end of the program, the average star rating for the movie is displayed. Okay, so in this program, what is the sentinel or control variable for this loop? Which one determines when you quit?
The negative number.
Yeah.
Negative number, okay, a -1. But here we had to initialize these variables. So which one of these has to be a -1 in order to quit? Isn't that what our while loop is? Num stars. Okay. So is it num stars or is it? Okay, so what we're trying to figure out is which one is in, okay, when you do your while loop, has anybody written the while loop yet? So it says while what? Okay, and that's what he said. So that is your control variable, num stars. If that's what's in your while loop, that's what a sentinel controlled loop is. The source code file already contains the necessary assignment and output statements. Each theater. Enters. Okay, so the program executes continuously until the minute. So make sure the file movie guide is open. Write the while loop using a sentinel value to control the loop, and also write the statements that make up the loop body. Execute the program with those values. Okay, so here's where the input is number star string, but then that's converted to number of stars. So that's why we know that's our control variable, is because that's what's going to determine when we stop the loop. So that's our initialize step, right? That's the initialize. Okay, so now we're going to write the loop. So it's while num stars is not equal, right? No, you would want to say, well, it's not equal to, oh, what'd you say? Okay. Okay, yeah, that'll work. Okay, greater than or equal to 0. All right. While it's greater than or equal to 0, what do we want to do? Do the average. So how do we do the average of, we've got number of patrons and we've got total stars ratings. So where do those come in? So there's some if statements, right?
I didn't do an if statement.
How'd you do it, John?
Like every time you put a star in, you add a patron.
Okay.
And then you do your.
So that's the first thing in the body of the loop is, first is just, you have that, what's it called? Num patrons or total stars?
Num patrons plus equal 1.
That's your increment, right? That's your,
the first thing I put.
okay, let's see what happens. Num patrons equals or plus equals 1. Plus equals 1. But what determines if you are going to, oh, that's just keeping the track. Oh, okay, okay. So then total stars is next.
Yeah.
Total stars equals
Plus equals
num stars. So that's like an accumulator total, right? So he's saying whatever they input for the number of stars, then that's going to add into the total of stars. And then how do you figure the average then?
And then the average was.
What did they call average star? Well, I guess first you should say, yeah, that would be
Like num stars divided by number of features. It's, total stars.
total, because you got to do total stars. Yeah, total stars. So this is just like your test one, divided by num patrons, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so,
And then you have to put an input in there.
oh yes. So if we didn't put what John said, the input in, then we would have a infinite loop, right?
Yep.
So here we would do this statement again. We could actually just copy and paste it. This is alter. And then after it drops out of the loop, it's going to print the average.
And then you're going to want to make it after that.
Do what?
You want to make the input a float. Because then it's going to give you a syntax error.
Right here, it already is a float.
Okay, will that still work correctly?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Because it comes in. Should it? I wonder why it's a float. They started it out with the float, right?
Yeah, basically. Even though it's an
Let me see on mine what that is. Okay, let's see. Guide. Okay, does it have? Oh, I don't know why that has that float in there because it doesn't in the actual. Oh yeah, it does. Number of stars equals float. It comes in as a string and then they make it a float.
You made it.
And then I made it an integer down there. Okay. Well, I have no idea why it's coming in as a float right there. That doesn't make sense.
that's just what they decided.
Yeah, in the beginning. So here it needs to be in. It comes in as a float.
Well, actually, it is a float because if you do the average of your stars,
It could come out a float. That's, you're right. That's it. It could come out like a. Okay, so this one's float and this one is not. Input here. And then it becomes an integer. Why is that?
it's still a float.
And how I did it. Okay, so total plus equals number of stars, number of patrons, number, ask for input again, then change it to an integer. Okay, divided by number of patrons. Okay, they do the average after you come out. That's something that I got to take out. This needs to be not in the loop, right? This needs to be right here. It won't work right if you put it in the loop because it, well,
No, I did. I took it out of the loop.
yeah, see, it can't be in the loop or else it won't accumulate first. So it's got to accumulate first. So here, this actually just says input. Why is that not saying input? Oh, I copied the wrong statement. That's why. I should have copied this one to put 4 here. That's what I should have copied. So that's the input, and then I need to change it to an int. So I say num stars equals int num star string, right? Okay. So now it's ready to go back into there. And it's in the average. Okay, I'm leaving something out. What did I leave out? No, that's right. Okay, so now it should run. Let's see, let me bring this back over. Maybe I can bring, let me see if it'll let me close that one. No, it doesn't. Okay, so let's see what it does, if I've got the syntax right or not. Enter rating for featured movie. Okay, it told us which ones to use, right? Said to following as 0 and 3 and 4. Oops, I got a name error. Oh, I spelled it wrong. Stars or something. That's all that is. Num stars string or something. Let's see, where's it at? So right down here is my error. Int. Yeah, there needs to be another S here, right?
Yeah, and then a 4.
Oh, so that should say just string, right? 0, 3, 4, 4, 1, 1, 2, -1. Average star value, is that right? That's a long value. Doesn't show you what the correct is, does it? Yep, that was right. Okay. So all we did, this was a simple accumulator. You know, we do one down below that's a little bit more in the body of the loop. But this one, all you're doing is just like in your tuition test problem, you had to accumulate the 2 GPAs, and then outside the loop, you would create the average. But what happens if we put the average inside the loop? So what if I left the average up here inside the loop? Actually, I wouldn't have an infinite loop, but what it's going to do is it's going to calculate the average every time I add one. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get it.
So it would work, but it's senseless to do that because you don't want the average until you've got all of the totals accumulated, right? Okay, so let's go to the next one. The next one is the for loop. So we get to test what we just learned. Anybody get this one working? You did, Caitlin? Okay, we'll just let you tell us then. Okay, so in this lab, let's see, that's the summary. This is called new multiply. This program prints the numbers 0 through 10 along with these values multiplied by 2 and 10. But instead of using a while loop, we're going to use a for loop because it is counter controlled. So we know that's a perfect instance of a reason to use a for loop. So it has 2 constants already initialized. Num loop start is 0 and num loop end is 10. So you remember when we did that one inside the chapter for hello, we didn't use a constant. We just said the range 1 to 4, right? Or 0 to 4, whichever way. So here they're going to actually use a constant instead of hard coding the value so that if you want to print out more times, you can just come up here and change the constant. Okay, so print 0, write your for loop here. Okay, so how do we do this, Caitlin? So 4, did it use a range?
Yeah, I used 4 counter and then 0.
4, and did it tell you what variable to use or just count? Just,
Just use counter.
okay, counter,
It doesn't give you the print statements.
okay. Okay, so here it says 4 counter is what?
In range 0 to 10.
0, comma 10. Okay, and we do print, right?
Yeah, print head 1 plus string counter.
Print, what'd you say? Print what?
Head 1.
Oh, oh, you're printing the headings. Okay, yeah, it gave us print head 1. Is that a lowercase h? I think it is. Head 1 plus, is that what you said?
Yeah, plus string counter.
Okay, and then we'll print head 2, is that right?
I did.
Oh, then you got to calculate what it is,
Yeah,
right?
I did mult underscore 2 equals counter times 2.
Okay, so you did a different variable name than they did before. Underscore 2 is what you did first, equals, this one is going to be counter times 2, right?
Yeah.
Counter times 2. And then did you print it right then?
Yeah, print head 2.
Head 2, oop, yeah, plus string. This would be mult 2, right?
Yeah.
Mult underscore 2. So whatever your variable names are, you can use different variable names. And then we'd say mult underscore 10, right?
I did the num loop start equals num loop start plus 1.
That's what should have been up here, right?
Num start should have been in the for 0.
Yeah, and then,
start
yeah,
should
up here we should have used the constants. Num loop start. You were incrementing them or something, right? Is that what you're doing? Loop underscore start, because that's what it was wanting us to use instead of those actual numbers. And num loop end. Okay. So instead of using 0 to 10, it would have worked with what Caitlin did, 0 and 10. But the purpose of using them declaring these constants up at the top is so that you use them in your range. Okay, so it made it a little longer. Let me kill this one that's here. Okay, so this part though, this still works, right, Caitlin? So then you go down here and you don't have to increment anything. That should, is there only 2 headers, right? Oh, there's a 3 multiplied by 10. So number was count, that was 2. And so now we want to do mult underscore 10, because that's what you were calling them, right?
Yeah.
Equals counter times 10. And then we would say print, oops. Oh, I did all of mine in capitals for some reason. Yeah, I'll get back and fix that. MULT underscore 10 equals counter times 10. So now we have one more head, print head. Three plus string mult. Okay, anything else? Did that do it? Okay, so if I go, oh, it only went up to 90. It went up to 100 before. Did I do something wrong in my for loop or something? Let's see. Well, let me see. Did it expect that? Multiply 7 and use the for loop, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so it says that was correct. I guess
Mine's not working.
yours isn't working.
Oh,
Can you see Sammy? Did yours work?
No, mine's not working, but I didn't do it the right way. I didn't use counter. I used instead. What did you say? Counter?
You don't, see, you don't have to set it to anything because it's a for loop. So you just say for counter in range, oh, that's start. Invalid, usually you can tell. No, the color goes over here at the end. See, yours is, it's switched up there, so it's hard to tell. That's the end of the statement. Yeah. You know what you were doing, Sam?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm just going to do one just to the last one. You didn't change, you don't just change the print, but add a blank line above the print. Okay. And then you'll say average stars, which is what you're trying to calculate. So average stars equals total stars divided by patrons.
Yeah, that should. Okay. So those are the, we've got 5 minutes left. We probably won't have time to do one more, but we'll see. Okay, so we did for loop. This is a while loop with a break statement, and I don't very often like to use these break statements. So I'm gonna give, what's the name of that one? No, I mean the actual newest multiply. Okay, so let me close this so it'll show for you guys. Oh, guess it was there. Okay, so a break statement means that you just come out of the loop before it reaches the test. So this program prints the numbers 0 through 10 along with these values multiplied by 2 and by 10. So your input, you don't have any input, so it's going to be a definite controlled loop. But what they want you to do this time is this is a post-test loop in Python, which really, a post-test loop in Python is not used very often, but sometimes in cybersecurity they do use breaks to get out of a loop. So what is this, when you say while false, what kind of a comparison, if a variable can only be one of two number, Boolean. So they're using a Boolean variable to determine when to end this, oh my goodness, when to end this loop. So what they're saying is this one is not going to test again till at the bottom of the loop. So it's saying set number counter equal to 0 while false. So while it's not true, it's kind of a double negative. While false, so up here, see, while you can condition a while loop in Python with false or true. And I think it's very bad logic, but here's the way they do it in this one. So this part is just like the other programs that we've been doing, by 10, by 2, this whole part is the same. Then they increment counter, but the only thing they added was at the bottom, they added a test. If number counter is greater than number of loops. So we don't ever want it to go past 10. If it goes past 10, then we want to break out. So it's not actually testing the loop with the while statement, is it? It's not testing the loop. It's testing it down here at the bottom of the loop. So when you open yours up, this should be the only thing you have to add if you can get back to the first one. All of this is the same as the first one, right? It's the same as the while loop. So let's see where that is. How much is in here? Oh, okay. So if you go back to, will it let you go back to your other one, like your very first one, the counter controlled loop? If you go in here,
Yeah, it'll let you comment.
okay, so all you need to do is take this one. If it'll open up.
have to leave the sandbox or it kicks you out, though.
You have to do what?
You have to leave that sandbox or it kicks you out,
Oh,
though.
okay. So what you want to do is you want to take this while loop, copy this whole while loop down to the bottom, and then change this to false, right? And then down here at the very bottom of the loop, make that if statement that I showed you right here. So you're going to copy and paste that from the first one. And then you're going to add this and the break and take that part of your while loop off and change it to false. Everything else in the loop is the same, unless it did it use this? Might have not used that. I can't remember.
No, it does.
Okay, so the only thing you change are two statements. You'll change the while loop and the if statement, because this is called a, what kind of test loop? Is it before or after? You know, the ones we've been using were called pre-test loops. This one's called a post-test because it's testing at the bottom and breaking out, right? Okay, so your assignment is to do the rest of those, because we're going to do something different in class on Wednesday. We're going to do turtle loops. So you have how many is left in here? 3. Okay, I want you to get those 3 done, because we talked about nesting loops. We talked about accumulating totals and validating user input. But all 3 of these sections, there's a section in the chapter, you know, that explains the logic. But if you don't, you know, you can ask me a question on Wednesday about them, but I want to spend the time going over actually creating our nested loops and things, so that I can see if you really understand loops before we go on to arrays. Okay. Yes.
So do we do the validating user input and accumulating totals?
Yes.
Because I've done them, it just doesn't let me upload, like, doesn't show to like the 100% complete button at the bottom.
The submit button isn't there.
I've done them, I just can't.
It won't submit them, but they work. They say 100%.
No, it doesn't even show the checks or anything.
See, I had trouble one semester and they're supposed to fix that.
I've done anything. And there's nothing there.
Run checks. There it is. I think it was just not down far. Maybe you weren't scrolled down far enough or something.
Okay, so you'll finish those for Wednesday then, and if you have any questions, let me know. Okay? All right, see you guys then. What?
It's
Recording.
the validating user input one.